Under my understanding, the Capitol Police is not able to confiscate members' equipment when the member is not under investigation. It is their equipment, and it's supposed to be returned.
Well, I think there's extenuating circumstances in this case, and I think that working through my counsel and the necessary personnel, if that in fact is the case, and with the permission of through the investigation, we will return the equipment. But until that's accomplished, I can't return the equipment.
I think you're violating the rules when you conduct your business that way, and should expect that there would be consequences.
Debbie Wasserman Shultz is one of 8 members of the Appropriations Legislative Branch Subcommittee. The committee is in charge of setting the budget of the Capitol Police Force. In the video you just watched, Shultz questioned Police Chief Matthew Verdosa in regards to a laptop that she claims was hers. A police source told the Daily Caller that the equipment was stolen by an employee and stashed in a House office building. Politico reported on February 6th that the staffer in question was Imran Awan, one of 3 brothers from Pakistan under investigation for stealing equipment from House members. Politico. House staffers under criminal investigation still employed. February 6th, 2017. Imran Awan, a longtime House staffer who worked for more than 24 Democrats since 2004, is still employed by Representative Debbie Wasserman Shultz, though his access to House IT network has been blocked since last week. Multiple relatives of Imran Awan, including his wife Hina Alvi, his brothers Abid A Awan and Jamal Awan, all House staffers until recently, are also being investigated in connection to the alleged procurement scam, according to a senior House official close to the investigation. Alvi, the wife of Imran Awan, has worked for more than a dozen House Democrats and the House Democratic Caucus since 2007. Gregory Meeks is still employing her. 5 House staffers are accused of stealing equipment from members of offices without their knowledge and committing serious, potentially illegal, violations on the House IT network, according to multiple sources briefed on the investigation. Imran Awan has worked for at least 25 other House Democrats since 2004. He started working for Meeks in 2004 and joined Debbie Wasserman Shultz's office in 2005. The Miami Herald confirmed on July 26 that Debbie Wasserman Shultz was in fact still employing Imran Awan. Headline: Wasserman Shultz kept paying tech experts suspected of stealing House computers, July 26, 2017. When a computer expert who worked for congressional Democrats was accused of stealing computers and data systems in February, members of Congress cut him loose within days, leaving Imran Awan with no supporters 5 months later. That was except for Representative Debbie Wasserman Shultz. Shultz would also be forced to let him go the week of July 26th after the following incredible circumstances took place.
Exclusive story now from the Daily Caller. FBI agents seized smashed computer hard drives from the home of a tech worker who worked for Debbie Wasserman Shultz. Daily Caller investigative reporter Luke Rosiak joins us now. Can you give me some perspective on this? And it's a very complicated story involving 3 Pakistani brothers. Set it in context for me. Why is it so important?
Well, this is a recurring theme of cyber attacks on our nation. We've seen it again and again. And sort of the sleeper story, the one we haven't been hearing about much at all, is there's been yet another woman on the House of Representatives. There is an ongoing criminal investigation into a major cyber breach involving not outside actors, but inside men. Is
that the 3 Pakistani brothers that we're talking about here?
Yeah, so the suspects in this probe are people who worked for a long time for Democratic members in the House. A couple of brothers named Imran Awan, Abid Awan, and Jamal Awan, and they are criminal suspects. They worked for Imran worked for Debbie Wasserman Shultz for a long time, and now we're just learning that the FBI is involved in this investigation as well.
What's the implication behind the 3 Pakistani brothers doing information technology work for Debbie Wasserman Shultz and other Democrats, and I believe a couple of Republicans in the House?
They weren't doing work for any Republicans. It was all Democrats.
Okay.
And as you'd imagine, these IT guys had access to all emails and files for the members that they worked for, and they worked for dozens of members. Soon after this guy Imran started working for Debbie Wasserman Shultz, all of his relatives appeared on the payroll, and they collected $4 million. Very unusual. and it's unclear what the investigation spans in its entirety, but there's a lot of red flags for these guys. I'm told that they were sending information to an off-site server, and when you look into their backgrounds, these guys have been accused of fraud repeatedly in civil lawsuits. They set up, it's really a bizarre story. They set up an LLC called CIA LLC, if you can believe it, while working for the House of Representatives. And this LLC, which was supposedly a car dealership, took $100,000 from an Iraqi politician. Their stepmother separately accused them of wiretapping and extortion. So it's
where are the Pakistani brothers now?
I believe they're still here, although they've taken steps to hide the exact addresses that they're living in, and the wife, who was also on the payroll, has left for Pakistan since, because
so if the FBI now has these smashed hard drives, what might they get out of these smashed hard drives if they could get into them?
We don't know what they'll find, but we know that both Imran and Debbie Wasserman Shultz don't want evidence examined. And that's the weird thing here, is we saw that with the DNC as well, where the DNC didn't turn their server over to the FBI. You would think that Debbie Wasserman Shultz would say, I can't believe my IT guy was allegedly hacking. I want him prosecuted to the full extent of the law. Instead, a laptop was separately seized from a House office building, and she is blocking the Capitol Police from reviewing it, saying constitutional issues, speech and debate clause, and even threatening the Capitol Police with, quote, consequences.
Imran Awan had apparently accidentally left smashed computer hard drives and other equipment at one of his rental properties. A United States Marine renting the property from Awan notified authorities, and the FBI were able to seize the hard drives. It's not clear what Imran Awan is attempting to hide by smashing the hard drives, and what information Debbie Wasserman Shultz seems to be so afraid of authorities getting their hands on. Wikileaks. Debbie Wasserman Shultz movements, May 4th, 2016. Debbie Wasserman Shultz wrapping up lunch shortly. Car being pulled around. Will head to her street interview in 5 minutes or so. I just spoke with Imran. Call me whenever GB and I'll update you. Don't delete anything yet. Just gave AK the cell phone for Imran. I do not have access to her iPad password, but Imran does. I'll call Jeff now. In what was previously believed to be an irrelevant email from the DNC leaks, we found out that Imran Awan not only had access to the DNC emails, but had the password of Debbie Wasserman Shultz. At the time, Debbie Wasserman Shultz was the chairperson of the Democratic National Committee, which means she had top clearance, and that Imran Awan had access to everything that Debbie Wasserman Shultz had access to. For those of you not aware, the DNC leaks were released in July of 2016. They were comprised of about 20,000 emails and over 8,000 internal memos and documents of the DNC. Seth Rich, a 27-year-old staffer for the DNC, would be murdered 2 weeks before the DNC leaks were released. Julian Assange, the founder and CEO of Wikileaks, would go on Dutch television and imply that Seth Rich was murdered due to his connection to Wikileaks, specifically to the DNC leaks. Imran Awan would have had access to all of those emails. In addition, this from Wikileaks to DNC leaks, Debbie Wasserman Shultz movements, May 12, 2016. Pelosi is doing a closed-door meeting. No staff or anyone allowed. Caitlin, come to the Rayborn room and get her iPad for Imran. Thanks. The DNC emails show that Imran Awan not only had the password to Debbie Wasserman Shultz's email, but also handled Nancy Pelosi's iPad. Awan had access to two of the most powerful people in all of Washington. And then, on July 24th, 2017, the story would take a twist that you would expect to see in a James Bond thriller.
Now to some breaking news about a story we've been following here on Special Report. The investigation into a Capitol Hill computer scandal has taken a dramatic turn. Fox News has learned one of the IT staffers being investigated in the case is now under arrest. Caught, as investigators say, he tried to leave the country last night. Chief Washington correspondent James Rosen is following the latest developments in this case and joins us live. Good evening, James.
Brett, good evening. Just minutes ago, Democratic Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Shultz fired Imran Awan, a Pakistani-born IT technician who has worked with several family members to perform computer services for Wasserman Shultz and other leading Democratic lawmakers. Awan was arraigned on one count of bank fraud charges in U.S. District Court here in Washington today, following his arrest last night at Dulles International Airport prior to boarding an overseas flight. He pleaded not guilty and was released under strict monitoring. Awan started working for Wasserman Shultz in 2005. She, of course, was forced to resign as chair of the Democratic National Committee 1 year ago after Wikileaks began posting her hacked emails online. In all, the Daily Caller reports that Awan, his brothers, their wives, and others collected at least $4 million for IT services performed for Democratic lawmakers. In addition to Wasserman Shultz, these included Diana DeGette of Colorado, chair of an investigation subcommittee, Jackie Speer of California, who sits on the Intelligence Committee, and Ted Deutsch, ranking Democrat on the House Ethics Committee. The investigation started with allegations that the Awan Group was engaged in double billing, but then reportedly expanded to include how sensitive House data was stored. The group was barred from House computer networks in February when U.S. Capitol Police identified them as suspects in a criminal investigation.
According to Inside Gov, Imran Awan, a current staffer, earned an estimated $165,130 as a shared employee through the most recent House pay period. This was 2.4 times greater than the median for a House staff. His brother, Jamal Awan, earned $157,577, 3.1 times greater than the median for a House IT administrator. Abid A Awan earned a salary of $164,980. This was 2.4 times greater than the median for a House staff. United States District Court for the District of Columbia. The United States of America versus Imran Awan. July 24, 2017. Criminal complaint. Bank fraud. Conclusion. For the foregoing reasons, your affiant submits there is probable cause to believe that Awan and his wife Alvi engaged in a scheme to defraud CFCU, that is a credit union, by obtaining a HELOC, that's home equity line of credit loan, based on two material misrepresentations made to CFCU, a financial institution with deposits insured by the FDIC. 1. A misrepresentation regarding their use of the Sprayer Street property as a primary residence and not as a rental property, so Sprayer Street property was a house they owned. And 2, a separate misrepresentation regarding Alvi's intention to use the Sprayer Street property as her permanent residence following the closing of the HELOC loan, even though she was renting the property to person C at the time. These misrepresentations were material and caused CFCU to provide Awan and his wife Alvi with a HELOC loan in the amount of $165,000. Alvi was not arrested because she was successful in her attempt to flee the country. On January 18, 2017, an international wire transfer request form was submitted by Alvi to the credit union's branch in the District of Columbia in the amount of $283,000 to two individuals in Pakistan. Bank records show that $165,000 of the $283,000 wired to Pakistan was from the HELOC loan for the Sprayer Street property. On March 5, 2017, at Dulles International Airport in Virginia, Hina Alvi, the wife of Imran Awan, was searched by U.S. Customs and Border Protection and found to have $12,400 cash inside of her bags. She was permitted to leave the country along with her daughters and has since not returned. In summary, Hina Alvi was successful in her attempt to flee the country. She was able to escape to Pakistan with $12,400 on her person. Imran Awan wired $160,000 to Pakistan prior to his attempt to flee America, but he was arrested at Dulles International Airport and charged with bank fraud. As our investigation is going to show, bank fraud only touches the surface to the level of fraud committed by the Awan family. This is a police report filed on January 5th, 2017. Events: domestic dispute. filed by Samina Gilani, who is the stepmother of the Awan brothers, regarding Shah Muhammad, who is the father of the Awan brothers, who actually changed his name prior to his death, and Abid A Awan, who is one of the aforementioned Awan brothers. Samina Gilani called DPSC after her stepchildren were denying her access to her husband of 8 years, Muhammad Shah, who is currently hospitalized. Upon arrival, Samina indicated that she did not speak English, and a translator was used. Samina stated her husband has been in the hospital for several months, and she has visited him several times. She stated that she was denied access at her last visit. I made contact with her stepson, Abid, who responded to location and was obviously upset by the situation. He stated he has full power of attorney over the father and produced an unsigned, undated, undocumented document as proof. He stated his father is undergoing cancer treatments and Samina is causing more stress upon him and the family. He refused to disclose his father's location. I was further advised that her husband did not want to contact with her at this time but was scheduled to return to the house within a week. The stepmother, Galina Samini, would take Abid A Awan to court. The circuit court for the county of Fairfax, Americo Financial Life, and Annuity Insurance Company. Mrs. Gilani alleges that the Awan brothers barred her from seeing her sick husband as he was dying from cancer, stole her 2 laptop computers and all relevant life insurance paperwork from her house, bugged her telephone conversations and placed recording devices throughout her house, threatened her that if she called the police a second time, they would kidnap her family in Pakistan and her cousin in Baltimore, claiming that they were very powerful and that they had bugged her phone and had listening devices in her home, and put tremendous pressure, along with threats, to get Miss Gilani to sign over power of attorney, and that the Awan brothers illegally forged documents in order to collect insurance money. For those of you not familiar with my work, as in all my reports, every document referenced in this report can be found in the references below. With that being said, it's pretty clear at this point that the Awan brothers are bad actors and very corrupt people. Digging a little bit further, I found one more troubling link to the Awan brothers, this to a terrorist organization. This from a 2011 Fairfax County civil court disagreement. In 2009, the family would open up a car dealership. There would later be a dispute over shady bookkeeping, shockingly enough. In order to open up the car dealership, the Awan brothers took a $100,000 loan from Dr. Ali Attar. Interestingly enough, they used the acronym CIA to document their business. This from the New York Times in 2003, A Nation at War, Iraqi Americans, Iraqis in U.S. prepare to return and rebuild homeland, April 11th, 2003. Dr. Ali Attar, a father of 3 with a thriving internal medicine practice in Virginia, a suburb of Washington, said that he was one of 4 people chosen by General Garner to reestablish the Iraqi Ministry of Health, and that he was expected to be called to Baghdad next week. Just to clarify, Ali Attar is the person that gave a $100,000 loan to the Awan brothers to start their car business. March 28, 2012, 2 physicians indicted in a conspiracy to defraud the IRS by concealing their income and filing false tax returns. March 28, 2012, a federal grand jury has indicted cardiologist Abdul Fadul, age 75, and Ali Attar, age 49, a doctor of internal medicine of Alexandria and McLean, Virginia, respectively, today on charges of conspiracy to defraud the United States by attempting to hide their true income and aiding in the preparation of false tax returns. The IRS would allege that Attar billed the IRS for a large number of medical services that never took place. And then I came across an article from the American Conservative written in 2013, long before there was anything known about the Awan brothers and any connection to Attar. Paul Wolfowitz Iran Connection, written by Philip Giraldi, a former CIA agent. Dr. Ali A. Attar fled the United States after the indictment, that's the IRS indictment, to avoid arrest and imprisonment. Late in 2012, he was observed in Beirut, Lebanon, conversing with a Hezbollah official. It turns out that Al Attar is only a first-generation Iraqi. He was born in Baghdad, but his parents were both from Iran. In summary, Imran Awans is under investigation for potentially stealing equipment from members of the House of Representatives. The FBI has seized a hard drive he attempted to destroy. He was arrested attempting to flee the country after wiring $160,000 to Pakistan. He has been involved in various types of fraud, allegedly threatening to kill people, and has loose connections to Hezbollah, a terrorist organization. Debbie Wasserman Shultz has done everything she can to protect the Awan brothers. She threatened the police chief over a laptop that was seized in an investigation into the Awan brothers. She continued to pay Imran Awan for 5 months after the investigation started, when most people connected to him had cut all ties, and has paid him much more money than people with his job typically receive. Imran Awan had the password to Debbie Wasserman Shultz's email accounts and likely knows intimate details about her activities. He had access to the DNC leaks that allegedly led to the still unsolved murder of 27-year-old DNC staffer Seth Rich. That's according to Julian Assange. Since the Awan's arrest, Shultz spokesman released a one-paragraph statement blaming the entire thing on right-wing Islamophobia. And Awan is now represented by Chris Gowen, a powerful Clinton attorney.
I'd like to know how Capitol Police handle equipment that belongs to a member or a staffer that's been lost within the Capitol complex and found or recovered by one of your officers. What happens?
Sure. Well, it's processed on what's called a PD-81, which is a property record. And depending on the property, depending on how you can legitimately determine ownership, then it's generally turned back over to the owner of the property. If it's part of an ongoing case, then there are other things that have to occur for that to happen.
So if a member says that they have equipment that's been lost and you find it, it would be returned to the member?
In a general sense, yes.
Okay.
You have to identify, you have to be able to positively identify the property and be able to establish ownership.
Right. And if ownership is established?
If it's part of an ongoing case, then there are additional things that need to be done.
But if the member owns the equipment and there is no ongoing case related to that member, then the equipment is supposed to be returned.
Right. In a general sense, yes.
No, I mean in a specific sense. If the member loses the equipment, says they lose the equipment, and it is found by the Capitol Police, it is supposed to be returned.
If ownership has been established,
right,
it'll be returned. If it's subject to an ongoing investigation, there are additional things that need to be returned.
But not an ongoing investigation related to the member. If the equipment belongs to the member, it has been lost, they say it's been lost and it's been identified as that member's, then the Capitol Police is supposed to return it. Correct?
Well, it's not I can't give a yes or no answer on that because I know
it's a simple yes or no answer. If a member loses equipment and it is found by the Capitol Police or your staff and it is identified as that member's equipment and the member is not associated with any case and that is their equipment, it is supposed to be returned. Yes or no?
Depends on the circumstances. And if the circumstances
I don't understand how that's possible. Members' equipment is members' equipment. Under my understanding, the Capitol Police is not able to confiscate members' equipment when the member is not under investigation. It is their equipment and it's supposed to be returned.
Well, I think there's extenuating circumstances in this case, and I think that working through my counsel and the necessary personnel, if that in fact is the case, and with the permission through the investigation, we will return the equipment. But until that's accomplished, I can't return the equipment.
I think you're violating the rules when you conduct your business that way, and should expect that there would be consequences. I yield back.
Did you like this video? I hope that you did. There's a lot of powerful people in the world that want to do bad things. And every day we hear disturbing stories like internet censorship ramping up. We need to combat these evil forces. And we can do that with grassroots media. But the truth is that freedom isn't free. And I need funds to fund this operation. If you go to www.patreon.com/Tom Anderson, you could subscribe and gain exclusive access. For $5, you get sneak peeks to future videos. For $10, you get special access to my weekly thoughts. For $20, you gain access to a monthly Q&A. For $50, I'll make a video of your choice. And for $100, you'll get an FFRnews George Washington t-shirt and everything else that comes with it. Helps me fund this operation so that I could put more hours into it. I could get better equipment. I could go out on the streets and interview people. I could bother politicians and do all those type of things that we need to keep liberty and restore the spirit of 1776. I'm Tom Anderson. Thank you for watching FFR News.